You're watching Covenant Eyes TV, helping you to stay safe and pure online. Today we are interviewing Jan Villarubia. Jan used to be a performer in the porn industry, and now she's the author of a new book, Porn Star on Welfare. We're interviewing her today on Covenant Eyes TV. Well, Jan, thank you so much for being on the program. I just have a few questions for you, really, about not just your book that's coming out, but also about your story in general. You used to be involved in the pornography industry, and about how many films did you end up doing?
I want to say I did about 40 plus. It's kind of hard to recall because I had my own website, and so there was scenes in that, and then yeah, the numbers kind of get jumbled up. I was in the
Sure.
porn industry for about a year and a half, so I did quite a few.
Okay. And now you had quite a few very awful experiences in your time in the industry. Aside from just the day-to-day work in the industry itself, which is a story in and of itself. Well, why don't you give us some of the highlights here? What were some of the reasons? What were some of the catalysts for you that really signaled to you that the life you were living in the industry was not only detrimental to you and to your health, but just detrimental to your well-being overall? What were some of those events, some of those things that happened in the industry that were so traumatizing for you?
Well, I initially got into the porn industry just out of the stupid belief that I would be able to provide my children with a better life. I was just really desperate as a single mom, not getting support from their father at the time, and um, I didn't know the nature of the beast that I was walking into. Yes, I did, make that choice to go into the adult industry. Nobody forced me originally to get into it.
Right.
Um, but once I was there, it's just, how can I best explain it? It's just very dark, and you just fall deeper and deeper into that darkness. You get hooked on drugs, you get hooked on alcohol. Producers use certain tools to get the girls to do hardcore scenes, and like I was threatened in the porn industry. They basically knew my situation. They knew the background that it came from. They knew that I didn't have anything to my name. They knew that I was a single mom struggling to provide for my children. And so once they learned that, they used that as a ploy to get me to do what they wanted to do. It was very much coercion. If you don't do this, we're going to tell the state that you're not taking care of your kids, or that you can't provide for your kids. And just personal threats too. We'll come to your house. Look, you need to do this. You said that you would. Just things like that. A lot of the girls are threatened in that type of manner. They're also threatened to be blacklisted. And so when you're doing something that you feel is your bread and butter, and the only thing that you believe in yourself to do, or being capable of, you don't want that taken away.
Right.
And so when they tell you, you get to a scene and you're expecting one thing, they change it on you, and it's going to be more hardcore, it's going to be more abrasive. And you know that you might be putting yourself at risk. You have to do it, or else you're not going to work again.
Right. And so these are some of the kind of the coercive uh, tactics that they would sometimes use for you, and then of course, for a lot of the other girls that you know who have been in the industry or even still in the industry. And in terms about the day-to-day work, or in terms about the types of work that they would have you do, I know in your book you talk some about this, but what were the kind of things that were, like you said, some of the hardcore scenes or some of the hardcore stuff that you were asked to do that maybe you hadn't originally signed on to?
Well, one of the worst case scenarios I can think of when I was in the porn industry was when I was asked to do a gangbang with 25 men.
Wow.
And the producer at first was like, okay, you'll show up, but you really won't have to sleep with all 25. It's more so going to be like 10 or 15 at the very most. I get to the set, and it's completely the opposite. There was the whole, all of the 25 guys, and he said that I had to sleep with all of the 25. Not only that, but he wanted me to have anal sex with at least 5 or 10 of those guys during the scene. And the minute that I started having doubts, the minute that I wanted to turn and walk away was the minute that he's like, "Here, come upstairs. Let's talk in a private room," And he's like, "Okay, look, I'll give you an extra 1,000. Will that make you feel better? What do you need? I'll give you some alcohol. I have some painkillers on set." Not only that, but I was meant to believe that each one of those guys had testing done, that they were all workers in the industry, that they weren't some just Joe Schmoes off the street, which I found out later was not true. Because at the end of that scene, I'm sitting there, I'm just covered in bodily fluids. It's just a disgusting, set. I mean, I had blacked out a couple times during the movie, but they kept rolling. I was promised that I wouldn't be choked, I wouldn't be abused, I wouldn't be called names, but that wasn't the case throughout the movie. And they never stopped set. Even when I blacked out, they kept rolling. And so, I mean, I don't know where that footage is. All in all, it took about 4.5 hours for that scene to be finished. And then afterward, all of these guys are coming up to me asking me for my autograph. Okay, you're a professional, you're working in this industry. Why do you need my autograph? Why do you want to take a picture with me? I come to find out that they had basically answered an ad in an LA newspaper to come and do a porn scene with their favorite porn star.
Oh, this is terrible. When you think about the not just the lies that got you in the door, and got you and then the coercion that happened on the set, but just the fact of what you experienced at that moment. So
Yeah.
can you? So now describing this, now eventually you got out of that industry, and now you reach out to others who are still in it, which I think is
Right.
inspiring. Out of the industry into the ministry. I would love for you to talk about as you talk to the girls who are still in this industry.
hmm
What is the response you get going to where these girls are and talking to them about what you do? Well, first, what do you talk to them about, and second, what's the reaction to that?
Well, when we first started doing this, when I first started working with Shelley Lubin and the Pink Cross Foundation, people didn't know who we were, and so they were kind of curious about the material that we were covering, and but they were really curious about our stories, our testimonies, and that's because the majority of the girls who are in the porn industry come from similar backgrounds of abuse and a molestation or single parent home, things like that. As years went on and people became to know who we were, it got a little harder to get closer to the girls, and share with them, because porn producers, porn agents, companies, all of that started telling these girls, "Look, stay away from them. They're trying to stop what you're doing." It was totally the opposite of what we were there for. I mean, we're still received in a good way for the majority of the time, but it is a little bit harder with people filling other people's heads with lies about us. I mean, the porn industry is not going to tell these girls the truth. They're not going to tell them that we're there to share not only our experiences, but we're there to give them transitional help out of the industry, because they deserve more. We walk a fine line between Christianity and humanity. We're Christians first and foremost, and we want to obviously end pornography, but we're also there to protect human lives and to make them aware of their rights, which most of them aren't even aware that they have rights in that industry.
Hmm. And so now you are sharing a lot of this in your story in a book that you've written. Why don't you tell us a little about that book and what it's all about?
Okay. The title is Porn Star on Welfare. And I know it's
Okay.
an interesting title, but I don't have anything to show for my time in the industry. I never did. Even when I was in, I had to live up to a certain facade, and make people believe that I was, this big star when I really wasn't. I was still struggling. I was still a struggling mom. Um, and it's just been a real labor of love. I mean, God gave me the idea for this book about 2.5 years ago, with the title, the picture for the book, and everything. And it's just taken so long to write. Number one, I'm not the world's greatest author. I'm not going to pretend to be, but I really just put so much of my heart and soul into the book. And it's my story, it's my life, it's my experiences, and I want people to be blessed by that. And hopefully it can help people overcome the same situation. Um, and anybody who is struggling with porn addiction or even in the porn industry, hopefully it can help them see the light out.
Yeah. Now, who would you say is the main audience for this book? I mean, anyone who's just interested in your story, someone in the industry, someone who's struggling with pornography. Who would you say was? Who did you write the book for?
I basically put it under Christianity, and that's just because there are so many Christians that, number one, turn a blind eye to this type of stuff. There's so many people that are in their church that are struggling with porn addiction, or who are even working in the porn industry. And it's a subject that they never want to discuss. Sex is just so taboo. Like, let's just completely ignore it exists. And also, there's a lot of pastors who are suffering from porn addiction. Um, but it is for any woman, especially who has been through similar experiences like me, and any man who thinks that watching pornography is okay and it's going to make his marriage better or his life better or benefit from it in any kind of way. It's basically for everybody. I do put a warning that if anybody is under the age of 16, please discuss this topic with their parents first, because it does go into detail, um, about a couple of things that I experienced, in the porn industry. And it's not too graphic, but I did have to relive the truth in order to get it out there. So
Sure. And where can people get this book?
they can go on lulu.com. It's lulu.com, and they can just go to the bookstore and type in porn star and welfare, and they'll be able to find it.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, Jan. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.